I am a farmer from Blackwell, Oklahoma, actually west of town, closer to Narden. And pretty much all my adult life I've been in the death and destruction business, emergency response, first responder, crisis manager. DOC for such a long time has been ignored by elected officials, probably better than 25 years, and told to make do with what they're given. Those days are over. We are overcrowded beyond belief. Just the state facilities alone are at 153% capacity. Then you add the private prisons into our numbers, and that draws it down to 113%. Quite frankly, I'm not a fan of private prisons because I think those who are adjudicated come into our system, the state should take care of them. Taxpayers should not pay a premium to rent a bed for those individuals, but we are where we are. Way too many people incarcerated, 65% are drug and alcohol related. I get a kick out of judges who say, you know, Bobby, you've been before me 5 times. There won't be a 6th. I'm going to send you to prison so you can get some help. There really is no help in prison except for our volunteer groups. We'd be on our backside without the volunteer groups that come in on weekends, at nights, with the types of programs that we desperately need. We're horribly understaffed. Correctional officers, up until July 1st this year, made $12.78 an hour. They received a 96-cent an hour raise. They're up to a whopping $13.74 an hour. We're still underpaid. What bothers me is that a lot of our CO positions are vacant now. We have some facilities that are under 35% of needed slots filled. It's very, very dangerous given the fact that we're overpopulated. So there are a lot of things we need to be doing. Less than 1/3 of our 28,000 incarcerated have access to any type of programming. Programming is the key to success. Mindset in Oklahoma is lock them up, throw away the key. Well, we've done that in spades. We are now #1 in the nation. No, that's wrong. #1 in the world when it comes to the rate of incarceration. Oklahoma needs to be #1 in a lot of categories. That is a category we should not be in. We shouldn't even be a player in that category. But it takes leadership, it takes guts. And what I've been trying to do over the last 2.5 years is to educate members of the legislature, educate the governor, educate the taxpayer as to what this burden is costing us, not just in the terms of dollars, but the human cost. Most of our COs work 2 types of shift, either an 8-hour shift or a 12-hour shift. A 12-hour shift is a mandatory overtime shift. They can only do that for so long until they burn out. Men and women start letting things slide. That's just human nature. And the next thing you know, you've got a crisis on your hands. We are very, very blessed that we haven't had a serious crisis in quite a while. I went through the '88 Stringtown ride. I never want to go through a ride again. So, we have about 4,000 employees, a little over that. And every one of them need a pay raise around here. I'm hoping that the legislature in this upcoming session in 2019 will see fit to give raises to those who are most needed, earned, warranted, however you want to describe it. We have people in this agency that haven't had a pay raise in 13 years. And our pay is at the bottom of the scale, any way you want to slice it or dice it. That not only hurts on entry into our system as an employee, but we provide no career path for folks. That's unacceptable. So most of the folks that come here do not come here for the money. They come here because they want to make a difference. And that all begins in their heart. And I'm thankful for that. We have a long way to go. This situation didn't happen overnight, so it's going to take many nights, many hours, long hours, a lot of hard work. a lot of elbow grease, and wrote a op-ed that called for the legislature, every member of the legislature and the new incoming governor, to become an advocate for us, a hero for us, to pass substantial legislation beyond the 7 bills in the state question that has already been passed. And let's come together, let's figure this out. I know it can be done because I was a part of the team in the 90s that did it in Texas. And now they've closed, 25 years later, closed 12 major facilities. And their population's down from higher than 200,000 to about 137,000 people incarcerated. It can be done, but it needs intestinal fortitude. And it starts with the men and women who are elected to public office. I'm just thankful that we have the 4,200 people working in our system every day. If we do not turn to successful programming and intense programming with 92% of our population that returns to society, oftentimes we'll be just returning those individuals a more hardened criminal. We're failing at reentry right now. Key to reentry is education, awareness, a job skill, training one of the trades. We have a nationwide shortage of individuals across all the trades. We're trying to get folks off their duffs, out of their bunks, to get engaged, but we live in a day and a time that you can't make anybody do anything. So the vast majority, over 2/3, sit on their duffs in those bunks and do nothing but stir the pot. That's all they have. And it's up to us to stop the status quo, change direction, and make a difference for those 92% who do get out. We know how to handle the 6 to 8% hardened criminal, the convicts. They are a threat to public safety. And I don't worry about them. We know what to do with them. I do worry about the 92%. We've got to stop incarcerating everybody in the state. What's the goal of doing that? Is the goal to incarcerate all 4 million state citizens here? I don't know. No one's explained that to me. But I'm going to continue doing this as long as I can, and as long as we can continue to make productive progress. I am thankful for the governor's leadership starting 2 years ago, creating the task force that led to the passage in the first legislative term, 4 bills. This last session, earlier in 2018, they passed 7 bills. 6 of those 7 will help eventually in our population. But we have to change and turn the tide on the way we think and approach who it is we want in prison, because there is a substantial cost to everybody who's involved. Beyond the inmate that's bearing the brunt of that cost, the taxpayer. I mean, there isn't a taxpayer around who wouldn't want to spend all that money in education, who wouldn't like to spend that money in education or health and mental health, areas that really do need it. 51% of our population has a mental health problem. Do you think that they're getting the proper care that they need? Not by a long stretch. So again, I'm thankful for our employees. Their heart's in the right place. They work their fannies off. And a little recognition and acknowledgement occasionally, and even a pay raise, will go a long, long way. Well, our work conditions are atrocious. The oldest prison is McAllister, OSP, built in 1908. Finished in 1908, I should say. Built by inmates that we retrieved from Kansas because we didn't want to pay 25 cents a day at that time, 110 years ago. Thought it was way too exorbitant. Well, now our maximum security inmates, it costs the taxpayer, depending upon their health requirements, somewhere between $100 and $400 a day to keep these folks in prison. Death row has 16 individuals who have exhausted all their appeals. We have another 33 on death row. In that group is one woman at Mabel Bassett. So the vast majority of our facilities are hand-me-down facilities. They've already outlived their life cycle usefulness, and there's nothing wrong with hand-me-downs, but oftentimes in our business it costs more to harden a facility than it does if you build a new one from the ground up. Out of our 24 top facilities, only 8 were ever designed and built as a prison. The rest of them are boys' school, a girls' school, a hospital, a college campus. You get the idea. It's not what we ought to be doing. If we had state-of-the-art facilities, maybe we could get away from the 12-hour shifts, because it wouldn't take, with today's technology, as many COs to cover those shifts. So there are a lot of things that need to be done. The control rooms, walking the runs, it's all very, very dangerous because it's dilapidated. Not all facilities are air conditioned. That puts a strain on everybody. Most of the facilities need a tremendous amount of maintenance and upkeep. And I'm thankful to the legislature in this past session. They did pass a bond issue, $116.5 million, which we are going to use wisely and plug some of our worst holes. At the same time, I need to add about 5,200 beds to our system, because being the leader in incarceration, even though we've done 780, 781 and other criminal justice reform, that hasn't stemmed that incarceration rate. We're still going up. And I have to have a place to put these folks. We have 1,000 today in county jail backup. County jail backup means that these folks too, men and women, have received their judgment and sentencing from the court, and they're just waiting to come into our system. We don't have room for them. We've limited our programs and put bunk beds in that program space. So we're shooting ourselves in both feet intentionally. We shouldn't be doing that. That's one of the reasons we need at least one new facility, male facility. Let me add the other 2,600 beds around our system that we will keep open, and spread out the misery, so to speak, and eliminate the need for bunk beds in day rooms and program space. We've got to get back to equipping these men and women with the right type of tools to make a difference and interdict their behavior when they return to society. I mean, they're going to live by somebody. They might live by you or me, and what do we want? We want good neighbors. We don't need to be living next to a meth house or a distributor of some type. Definitely not manufacturing. Methamphetamine is a serious problem inside our prisons. Contraband is huge. Contraband exists because the gangs essentially run those enterprises from their bunks with a cell phone. FCC won't let us interdict those cell phones, and I'm working to try to change that through the airwaves. FCC doesn't want to do it because AT&T and Verizon makes a whole lot of money off of that. But that's just one of many issues we have in the system. One that's offensive to me is our minimum units. Only half of them have fences around them. I think that's why the public should be aware why we have so many walkaways, we call them. Not really escapes, but they're walkaways. Nobody escapes from a medium or maximum facility. First and foremost, they have fences. What a brilliant idea. And we handle the classifications very differently. At minimum facilities, it's a little more relaxed. They're getting ready to go to a community service facility or to a halfway house. Our halfway houses are all run by contract employees, third-party entities, and we're failing there. That's the last step before they return to society. We ought to have that system inside our operational command and control. But it costs money. Everything costs money. And we're not going away. We've been around since Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. I mean, it's human nature to misbehave. Not everybody misbehaves. But we sure have a whole lot of people who do. And not everybody in our system is from Oklahoma. We have a sizable number from a variety of states. We have a sizable number that are illegal aliens in our country. Most of them have detainers, so when they finish their sentence here, they'll go somewhere else to another state or to ICE, federal government, and they'll be handled, I assume, in a judicious manner. But for those of you who watch television, remember that's movies and Hollywood. That's not the way real life is in a prison. We have to do something different.